Good morning. It is Thursday, the 23rd of October, 2025. We're almost there. We're almost there, people. We're almost there. Anyway, so big shout out to everyone in the chat. Obviously, I am Graham Hughes. If you don't already know, hello, presenter. You're watching Morning Brew on Politics Social. And in the chat, we have Martin Harrow, we have Viper Scott, we have Liam First, we have Diz, we have Sarah, we have Saz, we have others. If you'd like to join our friends in the chat, all you need to do is press the subscribe button. Wait for a minute, and you'll be able to join our friends in the chat, make new friends. Hey! But this is a non-bigots channel, so if you are a bigot, fuck off. We're not interested. We're not interested. Anything you've got to say, because, and I know you're going to find this really shocking, we've heard it all before. You have no original thoughts to impart with the rest of us, okay? There's nothing new there. There's no novel idea. You have given you have abandoned your own reasoning part of your brain and given it up on a silver tray, fake silver, on a silver tray to the likes of Elon Musk and Rupert Murdoch and Peter Thiel and other foreign billionaires who do your thinking for you. We don't want you on this channel. So sorry if you find that a bit prejudiced, a bit bigoted. But then again, if you are prejudiced and bigoted, now you know how it feels. Right, so we're going to be talking about safe routes today. Obviously, we've spoken about this before, so we're not going to go into it too much. I was hoping to concentrate a little bit more on other news stories, but also what's going on in the papers. But unfortunately, all the papers pretty much have got the same headline, which is just a bit ridiculous. But unfortunately, for some stupid reason, the Tomorrow's Papers Today website is showing a bunch of papers from yesterday. So I'm like, well, I've already seen that. That's from yesterday. So yesterday's news, today's chippies, fish and chip wrapper. Anyway, Martin Harrow, thank you. He's dropped a super chat in before we even began. A £2 super chat. Let's get this goal going, Graham. Yes. Okay, we have a goal. 10 super chats in the next hour, and we get confetti. And I'll go on a bit. Oops, nearly late, says Colin. No, I was late. But yeah, had a couple of technical problems last night. After I finished the show with Rach, we were having a chat, and I knocked my coffee all over my desk, all over my keyboard. It was hilarious because I've got like a glass top desk, and I've got my hand, and I'm kind of like holding it like this to stop the water going over the edge and onto the floor. And obviously, I can't call Kat because she's deaf, so I can't just shout her, which would be rude anyway. So I'm calling her on the phone, and I normally do that if I've sent her a message and she hasn't read it, so I'm trying to get her to read it. So she just sees that I'm calling her, and she just hangs up on me and goes, "Okay, I'll read your messages." And I'm like, "No, you need to come." Because if I let go, if I move my hand away, all the water would have gone. All the coffee would have gone on the floor. So eventually she came in. I'm like, "Can you get me a towel?" I'm like holding my arm across here, trying to stop all this coffee from going. Anyway, so this morning I had to check that my keyboard was still working. It's got a little bit coffee. Sticky keys. But yes, it's because of coffee. Nothing else. Right, SG says, I was thinking about that myself yesterday and think 2016 is definitely the worst in my opinion because it seems to be the start of the current madness. Yeah, we've had 9 years of this. We've had 9 years of absolute fucking insanity. And now look at what that fucknut is doing in the White House. You know, he's tearing it down. He's tearing down the East Wing. The East Wing is being demolished. Not like brick by brick. They're not keeping hold of the old the old roof tiles or anything like that. They're not making sure the wood is cut perfectly so it can be preserved. Now, just all fucking knocked down to shit, and he's going to build a big fucking ugly McMansion in its place. A big ugly McMansion. I mean, there's a word that I would use to describe Trump, right? And I can't say it, but some of my friends can, and that's the word they use to describe him. Anyway, so I'm gonna be talking about what's going on. So today, in at least four newspapers, they have the same headline. The headline is, "It's one in, one out, and back again." That's the cover of 4 different newspapers today, which is like kind of a little bit mind-blowing. So the Express has that headline, the Telegraph has that headline, the Metro has that headline, and the Independent has that headline. 4 different newspapers have that same headline today. So this is Keir Starmer's flagship way of smashing the gangs, one in, one out, which we said on this channel at the time, that's not going to work. And I feel like I'm that guy, you know, who looks at something and goes, yeah, you shouldn't have done that, right? After you fucked something. But the thing is, I'm not saying it after the event. We said it before the event. We said it before. We said it like, that's not going to work. Clearly it's not going to work. Like, why would you not just get on another boat and come over if you've been sent back to France? So look, the British public has been lied to for years about asylum, which I'll come to in a moment because we have a super chat from SG. Thank you. That's very kind of you, SG. The Epstein ballroom in the People's House. Perfect metaphor for the decline of the USA. Yes. And Paul Ewan says, don't forget the extended Trump Führer bunker. Well, he's not leaving, is he? He's not leaving the White House. He's never leaving until he's carked it, brown bread, pushing up the daisies. Joined the choir invisible, shuffled off the mortal coil, you know what I'm saying? He's not going anywhere, but thank you very much for the super chats, Paul Ewan. Okay, so, yeah, we've got a bunch of stuff to talk about today. We need to talk about also the Caerphilly by-election that's happening today, so we'll get into that in a bit. But let's first of all, let's just talk about this situation. So, successive governments and tabloids and grifters like Farage pretend there's some magic solution, military usually in form of Farage, and we'll put the Navy onto them that can stop the boats by being tougher. That's bollocks. That is top tier bollocks. Cast iron, dead set bollocks. People aren't risking their lives at sea because Britain has soft cushions and free fucking iPhones. They're doing it because they're fucking desperate and they're out of legal options, right? There's no way to stop the boats unless you remove the reason for people using them. What is the reason? We've said it so many times on this channel. The reason people use people smugglers is because there are 0 safe and legal routes to claim asylum in the UK unless you're Ukrainian or Hong Konger. That's it. That leaves everyone else. Syrians fleeing war, Iranians fleeing dictatorship, Afghans who literally fucking worked for us with no legal way to claim asylum in this country. That's fucking insane. That is fucking insane. And thanks very much to Chris C for the £2 super chat. Very, very generous this morning. East Wing demolished for the Lolita Ballroom. Indeed it is. Yeah. I was just thinking last night, actually, talking super chats. You know, like when we do like a quiz or something, or when we do the rabbit hole, we don't get much in the way of super chats. I'm thinking that we should bring back the sleazy quiz. What do you reckon? Did we bring back the sleazy quiz? Because I love doing the sleazy quiz. And then you could cheat by basically bribing us. Does anyone want the nice and sleazy fucking politics quiz to come back? That was great, that. Anyway, so yeah, back to asylum. So this news story about one in, one out, and back again proves that the system is broken. And the Iranian man just sent back to France in the UK returned on a small boat 4 weeks later. And this was, a guy who feared for his safety. He was being hunted by smugglers. He'd been trafficked. So what did he do? He came straight back on another dinghy. This isn't a solid migration policy at all because it doesn't deal with the root causes of the problem. You know? If you had a school, right, and all the people who came out of this school were like committing murders, the best thing you could do, right, is not necessarily to take the kids graduating from this school and, teaching them to maybe not murder. No, the best thing you can do is shut down the fucking school because that's where all the murderers are coming from. Shut the school. Get rid of the source of all the murderers. And this is what we need to do. We need to stop the people smugglers. We need to stop the reason for people getting on boats. This guy who's come back, by the way, after 20 days, he said smugglers forced him into servitude, threatened him with weapons, beat him, and made him work under the threat of death. And this is in France. This is in France. France doesn't really protect asylum seekers, just pushes them around until smugglers pick them up. And Britain not having a solid deal with the whole of the EU, like we used to, is crazy. And I'm sick of hearing this term, illegal immigrants. They don't even say that anymore, do they? Just say illegals. These illegals coming to our country. No human is illegal. They are not illegal immigrants. They are asylum seekers by law. International law says that you can claim asylum in any safe country after you arrive. There is no requirement to claim asylum in the first country you reach. That is a right-wing myth pushed by fascist gobshites for over half a century to justify cruelty. They come here for many reasons, right? The UK has historical, colonial, economic, linguistic ties around the world. People come here because they can already speak English, have a British family, or have worked with the UK military. This isn't random. You know, there's a pattern, and it's a pattern that reflects our place in the world. We keep talking about this. You know, they are here because we were there. Simple as that. Simple as that. And the UK has closed every safe route that made illegal routes and has made the illegal routes the only option. In 2010, over 90% of asylum claims were made in person at UK ports or embassies. Safe routes existed. They could go to a British embassy and apply. David Cameron shut all that down. Theresa May shut down the Dubs Child Refugee Scheme. Boris Johnson slammed the door even harder. This crisis is manufactured. We had no boats coming over before 2017. We just didn't have any. And then we started getting them. Why did we start getting those boats in 2017? Because we left the Dublin Agreement. Or we were threatening to leave it, which we did. Smugglers only exist because our policy forces people to use them. It's not rocket science. If you block legal doors, if you block legal entryways into the UK, people start breaking fucking windows. Because that's the only way to get in. Smuggling is now a $1 billion crime industry, and Westminster built the business model for them. This is like prohibition in the 1920s, going, we'll ban alcohol. That'll make things better. That'll make the less crime on the streets. And then we had the bloody Valentine's Day massacre. Yeah, we'll have less crime. We'll have less crime with the alcohol being illegal. Yeah, we'll have less people doing crazy things like, I don't know, causing the Wall Street crash. We'll stop all these criminals making all this money. You know, a few years later, the criminal fraternity of America is the richest cohort in the country, earning more than oil barons. Like the amount of money that the bootleggers made, Al Capone and his mates, it's just crazy, absolutely crazy. I'm just going to turn the brightness up a little tiny bit on the camera. That's better. This is $1 billion criminal industry that has been created by Westminster. So look, as you know, because you watch this channel, there's only two ways to stop the boats, right? Rejoin the Dublin Agreement. This allows countries to return asylum seekers to the first safe EU country that they applied for asylum in. Before Brexit, if someone arrived to the UK through France, we could legally send them back under Dublin rules. That system is now gone. Brexit cuts us off from the EU cooperation and has left us isolated with no real return mechanism, which is what the one in, one out policy was supposed to replicate, but it failed. It absolutely failed. And rejoining the Dublin Agreement, that stops the Tory lies. The current bilateral deals with France are pathetic. They're just PR. They've got no meat to them. They don't work. And the French fucking hate us now. Like, I'm sorry, but we've fucked them around. You got to understand that we forced the French to spend their taxpayer money, right? That they could have spent on, I don't know, beefing up defence at the Louvre, putting a CCTV camera on that side of the building. They could have spent it on a CCTV camera, but instead they had to spend millions of euros on building processing centres for processing not asylum seekers, but our food. Our dairy, our meat products coming over from the UK to make sure that they're up to EU standard. And then we decided not to do that until they abandoned them. After they spent all this extra money, they have to spend money on these e-gates and new systems for people coming into France from Britain. And yeah, they would have always needed to have that, because you might have people coming from other countries, from the USA, from Nigeria, from Malaysia, from the UK, or like traveling around Europe, might go into France. Yeah, you need those things in place, but you wouldn't need so many of them. And they are paid for by the French taxpayer. They're not paid for by us. And so the French are pissed with us. The French are like, you stupid bastards, you've cost us a load of money. You know, this is like a divorce that they didn't want. They were quite happy in the relationship, and now we've said, no, we're leaving. And we've left them with the fucking bill for a bunch of shit. And they're like, why are we paying for this? Got to understand, like, if France did that to us, would you just imagine what Farage and his mates would be saying about France, causing us all this trouble, causing us all this money that we could be spending on, I don't know, posh bank accounts for pricks, rich pricks. Anyway, so yeah, the rejoining Dublin means having a system that actually works, you know, actually does what the parliament, this sort of political bullshit is about at the moment. It would actually enforce responsibility sharing for refugees across the whole of the EU, which is the plan of the Dublin Agreement. And, you know, the Dublin Agreement is not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but there are countries like Switzerland, Liechtenstein, Iceland, Norway that are not part of the EU, but are part of the Dublin Agreement. Because it's not great, but it's the best we've got at the moment. The other thing they can do, so that's number one, rejoin the Dublin Agreement. Number two, create safe and legal routes. A safe and legal route to asylum is the only way to undercut the smugglers. You make it cheaper. Yeah, people still have to pay. I'm not saying that we should set something up where everyone in the world who wants to come here can claim asylum, okay? That's not the way it would work. But at the moment, we do have a system where everyone in the world pretty much can apply for a visa to come to this country. And when they apply for a visa, they have to have certain requirements or whatever that's looked into. We make them pay for that. We make them pay for the bureaucracy. We make them pay for the paperwork and the precious stamp in the passport, or the sticker in the passport that says, you know, indefinite leave to remain, something that Farage wants to get rid of. We make people pay for that. And we actually make a bit of a profit on the back of it. We're not doing it as an NGO. You know, we're not doing it as a not-for-profit scheme, right? And that's fair enough. You know, we can't expect the British taxpayer to be paying for fraudulent or facetious asylum claims from someone who just doesn't like where they live and wants to, you know, maybe move to Britain. But when you have a system of embassies all over the world, and they all have consulates, I don't understand why anyone can apply for a visa, anyone, at a British High Commission or embassy, anywhere in the world. Anyone can, right? We often say no. We sometimes say yes. We often say yes as well. But, you know, that is part of the bureaucratic process that is offered by our embassies. And I'm not saying that we should have a system where anyone can turn up at a British embassy in Nairobi and say, I need asylum here. Let me into your embassy. I'm going to stay here. You wouldn't do that. You'd have a system where you would go in to a certain location that wasn't necessarily the British embassy, right? You're in a different country to where you're from. So say you're from Rwanda, say you're from Burundi or Uganda, and you go into Kenya to go to Nairobi to claim asylum, right? So here's the process. Here's what I would do, right? So you want to get asylum, okay? You go on the internet, right? And you book a place. And you've got to pay for it. You book a place in, you can pay for it, you know, when you get there, if you don't have, you know, electronic banking set up. Although, in a lot of places in Africa that I've been to, people pay for shit with their phone. They can pay for it with your Nokia 8123. Like, seriously, you can pay for it. But whatever, right? That's not the point. The point is that you book an appointment, right? At a building that's not necessarily part of the embassy, so you can't like cross the threshold of the embassy and then say, I'm claiming asylum now, because this is technically British soil, right? So you have a third area, right, which is specifically for, you know, processing asylum claims. You get your number, and you either pay your money there and then, or you pay your money when you arrive, and you're given a date, an appointment date, and you turn up. You turn up for your appointment, and in your appointment, you have your fingerprints taken. You have your iris scanned. You have all your details put down. doesn't take long. You know, if you're going to Canada or Panama or America or even EU now, you have to have your fingers scanned, you know, when you do that, and then they take a photo of it. It's dead simple. Like, it'll take a few minutes, right? And then the person is given an access code to a form to fill out online that is linked to their biometric data. They fill out that form, they explain their circumstances, and if the presiding body doesn't, the embassy doesn't think that they have a case, they're told, no, you can't go to the UK. And here's the important thing. We've already said no. That's the processing done. So if that person was so minded to, I don't know, walk through Ethiopia, Sudan, Egypt, swim across the Med to Cyprus, then somehow get to Greece, and then walk all the way across Europe and get to Calais, and then get on a small dinghy over to the UK, they arrive, they're not going to have new fingerprints. They're not going to have a new, different iris from the one that they had before. And so they arrive in the UK, and we go, sorry, we've already said no. And we can instantly deport them back to the place where they claimed asylum in the first place, right? So in this case, Nairobi. So therefore, you're not taking them back to the place where, they could, they are running from necessarily, if they're, because we're not supposed to do that in case there's, situations of maybe torture or something. But I mean, this seems like a really simple plan, and I'd like people in the chat to explain to me why this wouldn't work. Why would this not work? You say, right, you're going back to Kenya, or go back to France because we're part of the Dublin Agreement. You've already applied for asylum here. We have already said no. See you later. And also, if we were part of the fucking Dublin Agreement, when anyone came into the EU and had their fingerprints taken anywhere, surely it would be part of the same system, and it'll come up, it'll flash up. No, they've applied in the UK for asylum. You can't. We've said no. We've said no, and people would know that. Maybe they could apply somewhere else. Maybe that could be the rule. Maybe you could apply as many times as you like to as many countries as like, so long as you pay, and you don't actually come to Europe until you've told that you can. But here's the thing: we need people to come. We need asylum seekers. We need refugees. We need people from other countries to come and work here for reasons that I've gone on about ad nauseum on this channel. So explain to me why that wouldn't work. Find the plot holes. Find the problems. I always love a good plot hole. What's the problem? Why can't we do this? We do this for visas. So it's not like the system's going to be overwhelmed because there are more people who want visas to work in this country than there are people fleeing persecution. Just full stop. There just are. There's not that many refugees in the world. Although if, climate change continues the way it is, there might be in the future. But yeah. Sid, thank you very much for the super chat, my friend. Sorry for leaving that a bit late. One in, one out. Shake it all about. Ooh, the hokey cokey. Yeah. You have to be insane to work down a poorly lit tunnel with overhead cables with 50 kVA traveling through them and serious risk of being flattened by a train at any moment. Yep. Remember all the scaremongering about the Channel Tunnel being an easy route for asylum seekers to enter the UK when it first opened? Yeah, like people are just going to walk through this high-speed tunnel. Hey, exciting news about the Channel Tunnel, though. The Eurostar have bought a bunch of double-decker trains, which is dead exciting. Well, they haven't bought them yet. They've commissioned them. They're going to go into use in about 5 years' time. No one currently in the chat needs to be concerned, says Diz. What? Who's concerned? Plum, I want a crumpet now. Oh, stop talking about crumpets. I fucking love crumpets. Sorry, we're supposed to be talking about asylum seeking. So anyway, safe and legal routes. You want to destroy smuggling gangs? Fine. Give people a legal alternative so they don't have to pay smugglers. That means UK Asylum Processing Centre in France, in Calais, the right to apply online before you travel, the humanitarian visas should be a thing again, and family reunion expansion instead of saying to people who have come over, because what happens a lot of the time is we don't want women and children getting into small boats. So the men of the family, or a man in the family, come over to the UK, explain the situation, gets asylum, and then has the right to bring over members of their family who are also facing the same issues in the country that they're from. There is a third thing here. So that's me number one and number two, right? Rejoin the Dublin Agreement and then create safe and legal routes. But here's number three. Right? Make it so there aren't any refugees. There you go. Help countries out that are struggling. Help people around the world. Give aid. Give aid. Give investment. Could you believe that? Investment in countries, especially the 56 countries or 55 other countries of the Commonwealth, 50 of which we've fucked over in the past. Go and give them some fucking aid. Stop refugees coming from these countries because they're part of the Commonwealth, and we should support our Commonwealth. We really should, because we're in it together with over a quarter of the countries in the world. 1 in every 4 countries in the world is part of the Commonwealth, and we should be helping them. And that would stop refugees. SG, thank you very much for the super chat, my friend. The only thing I can think of is the third country wouldn't want to have failed asylum seekers back. But I mean, that's part of the Dublin Agreement, isn't it? We'd be able to send them back to France. I mean, you would set it up so within the processing fees for claiming asylum, we make it so that if this is part of the deal, you apply for asylum. If you come here and, you when we've said no, there are certain things that will be done. Like, first of all, you might be deported back to France. Secondly, you might be deported back to the country in which you first claimed asylum. Thirdly, we might deport you back to your own country. I mean, it's not a perfect system. I'm not pretending that it is, but it'd be a lot fucking better than it is now. No one would get on the boat. No one. Why would you get on a boat? Get on a boat. Sorry, have you applied? No. All right, back you go. Back to France you go. Go and apply. Okay, I've applied now in Calais. They've said no. Okay, well, fuck off. If you come here, we will send you back to your country of origin. That's it. That's the rule. You've said that you come from this particular country. If this is part of the deal. So yeah, maybe don't send them back to the country in which they claimed asylum. I don't mean like they claimed asylum from that country. I mean, in the example I gave in Nairobi. But, I met someone who worked at the Nairobi embassy, the British embassy, the High Commission in Nairobi years ago. And they told me they just say no to everyone. This was back. This is back, at the beginning of the, when would it have been? Maybe this would have been back in the sort of days of David Cameron's government. But yeah, they just said they were told by the British government to say no to everyone. They had a lot of gay people turning up at the time from Uganda, because at the time, Uganda had been infiltrated by white evangelical nutter fucking dickheads from America who were coming over there and saying to the government, homosexuality ought to sin, in the eyes of God, if you allow that to happen, you're going to burn in hell. Yeah, for allowing that to happen in your country. And that put the fear of God, literally, into many of the people working in the government of Uganda, and they clamped down on homosexuality. So much so that at one point they were seriously mulling over making it a capital offence, making homosexuality an offence that could be responded to with the death penalty, like what they've got in Saudi Arabia. That friendly country with the comedy show and the World Cup. Yeah, that one. Yeah, Saudi Arabia, death penalty for being gay. But yeah, they were told to say no to everyone, which I wouldn't have. I would have it where everyone gets legally, we have to give everyone credit to say, are you a real asylum seeker? And here's the thing, 80% of people, yeah, they're real asylum seekers. And if they're found to be real asylum seekers, great, we'll fly you over, turn up on a plane. Like what we do for people from Ukraine. People from Ukraine applied online for asylum in this country. What was the problem? They came to stay with people. We had a couple of refugees living here for a few months here in Durham with us. It's fine. It wasn't a big problem. The economy did not suffer. In fact, if anything, it helped boost the economy, as all immigration does. So Labour's failing on this. Labour seems to be scared shitless of the tabloids. Instead of telling the truth, they keep parroting the Tory language, like stop the boats. They defend the broken system because they're terrified of GB News clips. One in, one out is a pure PR gimmick. It's not a policy. It treats human beings like fucking parcels that need to be returned because they weren't delivered correctly. Do you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't reduce crossings because it doesn't deal with why people are crossing. People are crossing because there's no fucking safe routes. Am I going mad? Is this mad complicated? Is this something that people just can't get their head around? And the conflation between the people coming over on small boats and just immigration in general, immigration of people coming over who have applied for a visa and paid for it, and we have said yes. And they have to have a job, and they have to be earning £31,000 a year, which is more than I've ever fucking earned, to be able to come here. And yet, so many people are. So many people are. Red Sea, thank you very much for the 79p. Hey, thank you very much, Red Sea 1991. I think that's your first super chat. So thank you very much. That's very kind of you. I'd love to know how Red Sea 1991 doesn't have an at the beginning. How did you get away with not having an at? Everyone else has got their ats back. We need to get rid of the ats. Nick says, rejoin Dublin plus restore reciprocal freedom of movement and 90 out of 180 day restriction on Brits. Let voters get used to freedom again. Then Farage looks like the baddie trying to take it all away again. Very good point, Nick. Yeah. Farage is trying to take away your freedoms, which is what he's always done and what he always will continue to do because he's a fucking scumbag. He really is the worst of us. The literal fucking worst of us. So I'm going to go over to the BBC News site because I'm going to show you this, right? Well, I'll go over in a minute. Let me just sort of, finish this part of the show off. So what we need to do, as Nick has said, we need to make Farage the bad guy. We need to make sure that we can destroy Farage's lies in real time. Why don't they say in the first safe country? Because that's not how asylum law works, because those countries will be overwhelmed very quickly. Britain has taken fewer asylum seekers than France and Germany every single year for decades. Saying they're economic migrants, over 70% of the people across the channel are granted asylum. That means they are legitimate refugees. And saying that we're being invaded, I mean, nearly everyone who comes across in a small boat is unarmed. They are desperate folk who risk death. Do you know what I mean? It's not like the Nazis. It's not like Operation Overlord. Was it the Overlord? Is that the Nazi invasion of the UK? Operation Overlord? Yeah. It's not the Nazis turning up with fucking, guns. We're being invaded. Yeah. A few thousand people come over and it's like, oh my God, it's an invasion. Not enough to fill a stadium, but there you go. Paula Thomas, thank you very much for the £2 super chat. We are 7 super chats in now. Thank you very much. What we need is to rejoin the EU. Yes, we do. And do you know what? People are talking about it now. And the more we talk about it, the less taboo the idea of joining the EU, rejoining the EU becomes, because people can see that Brexit is an absolute fucking disaster. And Plum says, love to all Scots, a top nation. Yeah, absolutely. Apart from 4 women in Scotland who can fuck off. But the rest of the Scottish people seem quite pleasant. Talking about the nations, Wales has a very important by-election today for the Welsh Assembly, the Senate. We've got in Caerphilly. You need to think very carefully about how you vote today if you're from Caerphilly. But this is a former Labour stronghold, and it looks like it's going to fall. It looks like it's going to fall to Reform. I'm hoping that Plaid Cymru win, but that's not certain by any stretch of the imagination. I'm just a bit concerned about the newspaper headlines today because they're going to fuel Farage's toxic rhetoric, So yeah, rejoin Dublin, safe legal routes, processing asylum like visas, smash smuggling business model, and have a controlled system, but have it a humane system that actually fucking works. I want a system that works. Okay, that's what I want. I don't want people getting into small boats and risking their lives over the English fucking Channel to come to this country to claim asylum. That shouldn't be the only way that you can claim asylum in this country, which at the moment it pretty much is. SG, Labour needs to stop the continuing decline of our country and commit to a customs union with EU and at some point single market as well. I couldn't agree more, SG, and thank you for the money. I think you're absolutely bang on the money there with the money. Coffee Fund Graham from Saz. Oh, thank you. Oh, we've done it. We got the confetti. Woohoo, confetti. Thanks very much to Saz there for the super chat. That is very, very kind of you. Oh, hello. Sorry, I just pressed the wrong thing. I refreshed the chat window instead of the super chat animation. Thank you very much for that. Coffee Fund, Graham. And then Red Sea 1991. I do have an at. It's showing in my channel's name. That's really weird because on here, where it's coming up on my screen, it's not giving you an at. Isn't that crazy? Isn't that cool? Anyway, thank you very much, Red Sea, for the extra super chat to clarify that. Steward's inquiry and all that jazz. Listen, we're going to go into the papers now. And like I say, this is the cover. Okay, so I don't know why tomorrow's papers today are doing this to us, but that's yesterday's Times. That's today's Mail. That's yesterday's Mirror. That's today's Express. Tracer at the Beep. I think that's yesterday's Star, isn't it? Was that yesterday's Star? No, that's Thursday. That's Thursday. Anyway, so yeah, there's a bunch of newspapers there that aren't from today. So we're going to head over to the BBC News site instead, which unfortunately features the Sun. So I'm going to skip past the Sun as quickly as I possibly can, because of all the rags, it is the raggiest. I really hope that everyone who works for the Sun enjoys their time in hell once they pop the clogs. Right, Viper Scott. Thank you, Alice Durham, for the super chat. That's very kind of you. Farage, hashtag Farage made the small boats. Farage Brexit caused the small boat. Hashtag voting reform, vote reform, get Putin. Hashtag vote reform, loss the NHS or lose the NHS. Yeah, you will. That's their plan. Anyway, so Daily Express then. It's one in, one out, and back again. Daily Telegraph. It's one in, it's one out, and back in again. Then the Metro. One in, one out, and then back in again. And then the Independent. One in, one out, and back in. Original headlines here on the first four papers, which have the same headline. We have a migrant deported to France has already returned to the UK on a small boat, making a mockery of Starmer's one in, one out. And then we have the hunkiest Macbeth you'll ever see, apparently, up here. And then down here, we've got grooming inquiry is toxic, says police chief lined up to lead it. The grooming gang inquiry has been labelled toxic by the man who was set to lead it. This is Jim Gamble, a former police chief and international campaigner against child sex abuse. This is a really difficult issue, right? So what do you do if some of the survivors of these horrific rape gangs are massive fucking racists? I mean, there might be a good reason, I suppose, for their feelings towards a certain segment of society, but this needs to be a inquiry for everyone. And there are members of the that's a bad way of putting it. There are victims who are part of this inquiry who are saying, yeah, no, this is fine. This is fine. We like Jess Phillips. We want her involved, and we don't necessarily need a judge to be in charge of this. And then there's a few people who are saying, a few women who are saying, no, we want a judge. We don't want Jess Phillips involved in this anymore. It is a whole fucking can of worms. It really is. It really fucking is. Anyway, so yeah, I wouldn't like to be having to deal with this. I really wouldn't. I just wouldn't. Britain, the tiny letters, Danny. I know you probably can't read this, but it says Royals halted scrutiny over Andrew Rent deal. There you go. So the Tories avoiding scrutiny for one of our most famous paedophiles. And then we got school killer danced after boy's murder, which is a really grim story about a 16-year-old who was stabbed to death by a 15-year-old. Cut eco levies on bills. Blair tells Miliband. So this is a news story about the fact that Ed Miliband's going to have to make this decision because we're planning to go, for our electricity mix to be entirely renewable by 2030, and if that's going to make energy prices go up for our bills in the short term, we're in a lot of trouble. We need to find a sweet spot to decouple the price of renewables from everything else. And Labour are already saying they're going to bring down prices for anyone living within X many meters of of a pylon. I really like the idea of having regional rates, where in places that produce the electricity, people pay less. I really like that idea. I think Scotland shouldn't be paying more for the electricity that it provides through its wind turbines and also from drilling for toxic sludge in the North Sea. Not my king, says Mr. Tusk. Not my king. I'm okay. Off to the shops. Have a wonderful day. Good people. Look after yourselves, says Plum Duff. Lay on, Plum Duff. Have fun. Notice how the papers are not concentrating on the grooming gangs. They're mentioning it. But obviously the immigration thing will help Farage today, and it's a by-election in Caerphilly today. So you know how it works, don't you? One in, one out, and then back in again. Bizarre twist in Starmer's migrant plan. And there's the killer of the schoolboy, 16-year-old schoolboy, who's brutally murdered. Really grim story. Starmer backs call for Andrew to face MPs over mansion rent. And then Simon Calder, from rail cards to reserve seats, how to fix Britain's broken trains. Have a lot of time for Simon Calder. He really hates Brexit. Small boats farce, one in, one out, and back in again. PM's flagship policy in chaos as migrant returns to France comes back. Number of illegal channel arrivals now exceeds the total for the whole of last year. Day of humiliation begins with another dawn crossing from French beaches. How do you know? The paper was from yesterday. So you're talking about yesterday was a day of humiliation? There's a really grim story here on the front cover of the Daily Mail where they try and do these, these real life stories of real life couples. Can my husband's hair transplant save our marriage? No. I'm sorry, but if that's what's, stopping you from being together, if that's not stopping you from fancying your husband, then I think that's quite a shallow thing to be holding your marriage together. A lot of you know how I feel about marriage. I think, it's kind of a bit of a crazy thing for people to do. How do you know? And also, I think it should be harder to get married, easier to get divorced. That's just my take. I've never been married, so I can't really talk. Never have I ever. Anyway, La Farce, as 2025 arrivals already exceed those for 2024. Migrant deported from France, blah, blah, blah. We've read that. Right, okay, next to the Mirror. Knife murder at school unmasked. Judge names teen killer as he is caged for 16 years. Victim Harvey's family tribute to gentle, loving boy. The kid who got killed, Harvey, whose picture's there, was only 15 as well. They were both 15. Just really, really grim. But, and I want to stress this, really fucking unusual. Really unusual. The tabloids want you to think that we live in a very unsafe country where there's crime is running rampant and kids are being murdered left, right, and centre. And that's not the reality. It's really not the reality. In England and Wales, we have about 650 murders a year, right? Out of a population of over 60 million. That's not bad. I mean, it's not great. I'd rather have no murders. Thank you very much. But it's a very, very small proportion of our population. Whereas in America, they have 5 times the murder rate. 5 times the murder rate in America. In some states in America, it's 20 times the murder rate of the of England and Wales. And Scotland and it's they want you to be scared. They want you to be scared. And if a gobby scouser like me can travel around the world and not get into any mischief in that respect, then maybe the world's not as bad as the papers like to fucking make out. They like to. It was your amygdala, is it? That is your fear response. They like to, make sure that we regulate our amygdala. Anyway, so we're not married yet, but 22 years together. Marry on the deathbed to get to half pension, maybe. I thought you were going to say to get to heaven. Deathbed conversion. Quids in, off to heaven. So you live a life of sin, and then at the last moment, deathbed confession. Off to heaven for you. Resloy 813, thank you so much for the very generous £10 super chat. For anyone who still defends Brexit, ask them this. If the EU was so bad, how come no other country wants to leave it then? That shuts them up. Countries want to join the EU, says it all. Well, my thing for them is like, you know, what's the best continent in the world? That's difficult for them. Is it Africa? No. Is it Asia? God, no. Is it South America? No. Is it North America? No. Is it Australia? Is that the best continent? No. So what's the best continent in the world? Europe? Yeah. Why don't you want to be part of it? Miss Paula Thomas, thank you very much for the super chat, Miss Paula Thomas. Not only is gun crime higher in the US, but knife crime is as well. Yeah, and burglary is higher, and carjackings, and literally every crime that you can possibly think of. Rape is higher in America, sexual assault is higher in America, racial aggravated assault is higher in America. GBH, or what they've got another name for it, but what we call GBH in this country. It's higher in America. Domestic abuse is higher in America, and also social ills like drug addiction, homelessness, higher in America. People dying of easily preventable medical conditions, higher in America. I mean, so many metrics that you think of, you know, in terms of like what creates a safe society that looks after its citizens. Heaven forfend. You know what? I got. Talking of defending British citizens and making us feel safe, watched Priscilla, Queen of the Desert last night for the first time since the 90s. Since I think I saw it at the cinema in like 1994 or whenever it came out. And there's a couple of things in it that are a bit wrong. Watching it back now, especially, like a bit racist. Priscilla, Queen of the Desert. And I think you know what scene I'm talking about if you've seen it. But, what a celebration. What a celebration of trans identity and acceptance of the LGBT community, or, not acceptance in certain respects. But that scene at the end when Tick is there with his son. Sorry, spoilers if you haven't seen it. And he's just really embarrassed because he's gay and he's... he dresses up and does drag, and he thinks his son's going to be embarrassed of him. And his son just says, so when we go back to Sydney, do you have a boyfriend back in Sydney? And he's like, oh, no. And he's like, oh, would you like one? He's like, yeah, I would. And you just see the Hugo Weaving is such a great actor. And you just see this look on his face of just like, oh my God, like the next generation are so accepting and like just cool with it. It's not a bother. He's like, come on, let's go play Lego, and it's just it just seems to me now that was a fucking world away. And that was at the time, that was mid-90s. That's when movies like Naked Gun 33 and a Third and Ace Ventura, Pet Detective were being made, which are incredibly transphobic movies. But at the same time, things seemed on the up, things seemed to be getting better. And yeah, one of the fun things about watching it last night is that Kat, my partner, she'd never seen it before, and I said, "Look, we gotta have our sort of 90s Australian movies binge." Okay, so we've got Priscilla and Muriel's Wedding. She has seen that. Strictly Boring, and The Castle and stuff. So and Sirens. Anyway, so. She's watching it, and it starts with Hugo Weaving singing "Never Been to Me," and he's like unrecognizable. He's just completely unrecognizable, and until he takes his makeup off, and then she's like, "Oh my God, it's Agent Smith!" And I went, "Yes, it's Agent Smith." The funny thing is, when I saw the original Matrix back in the summer of 1999, I remember going, "It was Agent Smith." I was like, "Oh look." It's Tick. It's Mixie from Mitzi. Sorry, from Priscilla. So she had the opposite thing. I was like, oh my God, yeah. Anyway, so yeah, it just made me really think though about like my progress through life, because I was born in 79, right? So the entire time, pretty much, I was in secondary school. In fact, the entire time I was in secondary school, we were under Section 28. So we weren't allowed to talk to our teachers about homosexuality. And I went to a boys' school for like 5 years, from 1990 to 95. It was all boys. We had girls in the sixth form. That's when I met Kat. And yeah, the fact that you couldn't talk about, feelings or, desires in that respect. And when we did sex education, it was just heterosexual sex. And now we're bringing that back for trans people to say, oh no, trans people don't exist, when they absolutely fucking do. There was an interesting report, study that came out, and it was studying the brains of people who were trans, people who weren't trans, people who wanted to be trans but never transitioned. And it was a really interesting result. It was only a small survey. So, we obviously, one survey does not a summer make. However, sorry, it wasn't a survey. It was a proper scientific investigation. So there's a part of the human brain that is gendered, right? And it's bigger in men and smaller in women, generally speaking, right? I don't know what it's called, so you can look it up, whatever. There's a difference between the male brain and the female brain in this respect. And what was interesting is that all of the trans women had the same physical part of their brain as women, as cisgender women, right? But what's even more interesting is that, so that they didn't, obviously this is a biological thing. Obviously this is a physical thing, being trans. It's not like people do it on a whim, or this idea that kids are doing it to be cool. They're really not. They're really fucking not. It's part of your brain makeup, your physical makeup. And you can't even call it like a chemical imbalance, because it's not that. It's your physical structure of your brain. There were men born, well, male babies born with the brain of a woman. Yeah, I know. So this is kind of crazy. But what they found was that even the man, cisgender man, who wanted to be trans, I mean, obviously all these people are dead, okay, so they're not chopping up the brains of living people, but this trans would have been trans, but didn't get the opportunity because of the society in which they grew up in, but wanted to be, but never transitioned, never took HRT, never did any of that, right? Never got electrolysis. His brain was a female brain in that respect, in that part of the brain that is different in women to men. And it's a really, really I'll try and dig it out for you for the next time we have a chat. But yeah, I thought that was a really, really interesting bit of scientific investigation. And hopefully it'll shut the... Well, it's not going to, but, these people who go, yeah, two sexes, men and women. Fucking... Those people are so stupid. Like, I can't get over how simplistic their brains must be to not be able to understand that, no, there might be something in between. There might be men born with a women's brain, and there might be women born with a man's brain. Who knows? That's something that can happen. Of course it can. There's 8 billion people on the fucking planet. We're not all going to fall into 2 binary fucking pigeonholes, which is what some people just want to do. They want to put everyone in the correct box. And when people don't fit in the correct box, it drives them up the fucking wall. It makes them go insane. Why won't you fit in this box that I have created for you? Yeah. Person impersonator says, I worry that rights gained in my lifetime will be gone before I die. Not if we can help it. Not if we can help it. Priscilla isn't the best advert for table tennis. Well, it's just that particular scene is, yeah, looking back now, it's sexist and it's racist. There's no two ways about it. But watching it back, that's not the point of the scene. The point of the scene isn't to be sexist or racist. The point of the scene is that these drag artists put on this amazing show, with all the mad costumes and stuff for this little community, and the people there aren't interested in that. They want a really crude sex show of this woman's, uh, firing ping pongs out of her twat. For those of you who haven't seen Priscilla, Queen of the Desert, and do other people out there who haven't seen it, there was a reason for that scene to be included, but now looking back, it is quite problematic. By the way, Priscilla, Queen of the Desert 2 apparently is coming out next year. Terence Stamp, who unfortunately is no longer with us, filmed all of his parts, I think, or most of them, before he passed away last year. So, we might be getting Priscilla, Queen of the Desert 2 with Hugo Weaving and Guy Pearce. Fingers crossed. I'd love to see that. I'd love to see how they're getting on, 30 years on. I disagree with the existentialist view of gender as it's only a distribution correlation like height. Yeah. That's a good point. Like, it's like height or sexuality. Like, you have the Kinsey scale, don't you? Of like, I think it's 0 is completely straight and 7 is completely gay. And like, everyone's somewhere in the middle. Like, there's always going to be someone who, I always see it like this. Like, so you think you're straight, right? Maybe you just haven't met the right man yet. Do you know what I mean? Like, or maybe if you're a woman, maybe you haven't just met the right woman yet. And I think that there is someone out there who is the same gender as you, who you will fancy because you'll just, for whatever reason, find them absolutely gorgeous. Might be more than one. But yeah, I think that's the natural state of humans. And it changes over time. This is what annoys me about, like, people who go, you can't be gay, you were married. And it's like, yeah, but back then I did actually fancy women, but I just don't anymore. People can change. It's not entirely set from especially sexuality. It's not set from the moment that you're born. You either fancy men or you fancy women. It doesn't work like that. And people go through periods of, wanting a particular thing. And if we were a little bit more, I don't know, if we were a little bit more understanding of the way that humans fucking work and accommodated for that, I think we'd have a much more pleasant society to live in, don't you? Ms. Paula Thomas with another super chat. Everyone's been very kind with the super chat this morning. I think it's the hypothalamus study. The study was Dutch and came out about the same time as PQOD. It was a really interesting study. Maybe it was the hypothalamus. I don't know. But I heard about it and I thought that was really interesting. Not magenta. People don't choose to transition like people choose to fall in love. But let's say it was a choice. People would still be free to transition. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And here's the thing as well. What's wrong with being halfway if that's what you want to be? But what's the problem? Why has it got anything to do with me? What you have under your clothes, right? Unless I'm in a relationship with you, and then, it'd be nice to know, I guess. But like, otherwise, what the fuck has it got to do with me? What if you want to present to the world as a woman, or you want to present to the world as a man, or you want to present to the world as non-binary? That is your fucking choice. And it shouldn't be me going, well, I'm thinking about what you've got on under that dress. I'm thinking about what you got in your trousers. I'm thinking about what... No, it's nothing to do with me. And if people live their lives, and this is part of the gender recognition certificate, you got to live your life, was it for 2 years? 2 years as your chosen gender? Fine. And have that, have a third gender. Have a gender that is neither male nor female. Fine. I whatever you want. What's the problem with that? I don't understand when people go, you can't have the gender of X in your passport. I'm like, why not? Your passport's there as identification, right? And there's not that many, intersex people in the world. So, fuck me, that makes it a lot easier to identify you, doesn't it? If you think about it. For more than half a fucking second. But yeah, just really, really, really grim. And do you know what? Making trans women, forcing them to have ID that says they're male, right? That also opens up the door, not just to, the problematic relationships, right? Because I'll come to this, right? So if it becomes common for trans women who present as women, right? Look everything like a woman, right? Look more feminine than fucking J.K. Rowling and a flat chest and a badly wrapped kebab of a fadge, right? Oh, God, I hate that woman. if it's common for them to have male on their passport or on their ID, right? What's to stop, right? People just faking it, right? Taking the partner's card, right? Partner's ID, and saying no, that's me, but with that's me in my female form. I mean, if you think about sort of identity theft and the amount of, the amount of fishing expeditions, not fishing expeditions, what are they called? The amount of scams there are out there, identity fraud and all that kind of stuff. Surely this, if the picture on your passport doesn't match up with how you look, or your picture does match, but it says that you're the other gender than you look, I mean, doesn't that open up doors to fuck things up for a lot of people? Like, I don't know. No, I'm not talking about just trans people here, which obviously it fucks things up for because they have to out themselves every time they use their ID. No, I'm talking about that. I'm talking about for cisgender people and all. Like, fucking hell. It's like the whole thing of women who don't look particularly up to the standard of Western beauty being harassed in toilets now by other women who similarly don't, because they're arguing with each other on who's the bigger turf or who's the, I don't hate J.K. Rowling. I absolutely loathe her. I just fucking can't stand the woman. She has fucked things so much for a very important part of our community. Yeah, really fucking grim. Really fucking grim. Pete says it's the person's business. End of. Anyone disagreeing is a mindless, horrible moron. Yeah, it's nothing to do with me. It's nothing to do with me. There's a cisgender man with a beard. Hi, Kat. I'm sorry. it's just so grim. It's just so grim that people obsess over this. Absolutely obsess over it. I think that I often think of that scene in Bruges where Peter Dinklage loses his shit, and he says, because he's filming a dream sequence, and he's a dwarf in a dream, and he says, "I'm a dwarf, and I don't fucking dream of dwarves." And it's very true, right? It's this thing of like, oh, well, it's a dream sequence. It's got to have a dwarf in it to make it a little bit otherworldly, right? Which is not very respectful to little people, for a start. But also, it's like, I think that someone like J.K. Rowling or Graham Linehan think about trans people more than actual trans people. Most of the trans people I know are just getting on with their lives. It wouldn't even be a thing that they would talk about on a daily basis had their rights not been taken from them over the last few years. And there they are, these people who are cisgender, who, have millions of pounds in the bank account. In the case of fucking J.K. Rowling, she's got over $1 billion in the bank account. And she's sitting there on a luxury yacht, wide awake, in the middle of the night, cold sweat, freaking out because trans people exist. It's not because they exist. It's because trans people are sexier than she is. That is the reason, isn't it, JK? That's the reason. She looked in the mirror, didn't like what she saw. Really fucking grim. Many women do not have their natural hair colour in passport photo. That is very true. I think Graham is onto something here. We could use a pic of the opposite gender to put on our digital ID. Yeah. That's what I mean. Like, forgeries. You don't have to look like your picture. Fucking crazy. So could someone, could a man in an abusive relationship, could a man steal his wife's passport and say, no, this is me? I'm a trans man. This is how I looked when I was a woman. Fucking crazy. Fucking crazy. I don't know if it will quite work like that, but I think it's really grim. How to stay healthy this winter. How to stay wealthy this winter. In The Guardian over here. Fresh turmoil as candidate for chair quits toxic grooming gang inquiry. Again, more sort of the story about this, which is, I find particularly grim. And then Kharkiv nursery hit in wave of Russian airstrikes. They hit a fucking nursery. There's a baby there. There's a baby taken out of a building that has been hit by a Russian fucking missile. Fucking grim. So fucking grim. 1 in 12 pupils in isolation at least weekly. We need to sort out how we deal with problematic children in schools. And no, I don't think we should bring back the fucking cane because that didn't work for anyone. Caitlin Moran, Dubai or skiing for Andrew. Okay. And then the boss on screen inside the new biopic. So there's a new biopic of Bruce Springsteen with the guy out the bear, if you watch that. Grooming victims say ministers should quit. And then we have Naomi Watts. Looking pretty radiant there. She's 57. She's 57, Naomi Watts. Hope when I'm 57, I look that good. 1 in, 1 out, migrant, blah, 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 blah. Grooming gang farce leaves PM scrambling to find new inquiry chair. We covered that. We've got Pillennial Man. I've ditched pints for £3,000 a year supplements. Are they worth it? Come here. Come here. No. Have fun. You're only here once. Everything in moderation. But you're only here once. This is it. This is everything that you'll ever know. Everything you'll ever be. Fucking the least you can do is try to have a decent time of it. And eating fucking protein pills like you're a futuristic astronaut in the 1950s. Are you enjoying your protein pill dinner, sir? Yes, I am, Mr. Robot. This is what we thought the future would look like in the 1950s. You are right, sir. You thought you'd have a useless robot that will get everything wrong. Oh, hang on. That has actually happened, hasn't it? It's AI. But yes. Anyway. But yeah. No. And Kate Lister there saying the delicious irony of the introvert personality. Is it that they're really kinky? Is it that they're really kinky? Possibly. And then we've got Richard O'Brien here. My wife and I live living in isolation. That's Richard O'Brien, who is from New Zealand, you know. He's from New Zealand originally. Do you know where Hugo Weaving is from? Anyone? Can anyone guess? Come on, don't Google it. Don't Google it. Just guess. I want you to guess where Hugo Weaving was born. Okay? Where he was born. Raise income tax, Reeves urged as Labour budget splits a bridge. Senior Labour figures are arguing that a bold move to break party's manifesto pledge is the simplest way to fix the public finances and raise £22 billion next month. So there you go. Yeah. Oh, sorry, I just went back. Forward. I did that thing because I thought I was still on the other website, which has got the wrong papers on. Yes, they got the wrong papers on. Financial Times here. Russian raid, deadly drone strike Ukraine. And then there's the picture. Oh, God, there's 3 babies. Look at that. Look at that picture. 3 babies being taken out of nursery by firefighters. This is literally the Kremlin bombing babies. Bombing babies. Trying to kill babies. Fucking scum. And they're going, oh no, we should be able to keep what we've taken. Nigel Farage making excuses for him all the time. Lawyers and accountants rail against Reeves' plan for tax raid on partners. We covered this yesterday, actually. Is this yesterday's newspaper? Scrapping NI exception awaited. Professional services firms hit out. Push to fill £30 billion fiscal black hole. And then FCA sues US crypto exchange linked to billionaire buyer of Trump meme coins. The financial watchdog has sued HTX, a US crypto exchange linked to Justin Sun, a billionaire who has spent millions of dollars on President Trump's digital asset ventures. By the way, if you'd like to know how much Trump has made out of cryptocurrency so far this year, the total is currently $3 billion with a B dollars. US dollars, not Zimbabwe. Australia. No, he's technically not Australian. He's not a technical. He's lived most of his life in Australia. He does sound Australian, but he's not actually from Australia. Does anybody know? Before we go, where Hugo Weaving was born. Someone's just going to look it up online now. You wouldn't guess it. You'd go through like all the countries in the world till you finally got to the one. Not Magenta says, to be fair, I never understand the tax base for couples when everything is more expensive when single. Yeah, that's true. But there you go. They try and encourage people to hook up because obviously people living alone is a problem because of the isolation crisis and people falling into this toxic manosphere because they're sitting at home on their own, and the loneliness crisis that apparently we're having. Yeah, John and Sarah have got it. Nigeria. He was born in Nigeria. Didn't see that coming, did you? Not Magenta says Brazil. No. He was born in Nigeria to British parents who then moved to Australia. There you go. I think it's a bit, whatever. Leapshin says, good morning, everyone. How are you all doing today? I'm feeling pretty meh as usual. Oh, please don't feel meh, Leapshin. Find something that you enjoy and fucking do it. Do that thing that you enjoy. As long as it's not like, I don't know, murdering people or whatever. Just find some little things. That's what I try and do. I just try and concentrate on the little things in life that just give me joy, give me pleasure. And Chrissy says, just imagine if all the turfs were black mold, the Domestos adverts could say, millions of turfs will die instead of millions of germs will die. Well, germ is another term for turf, isn't it? Exclusionary, regressive, misogynist germ. Which is one of the best songs of the year by Kate Nash. If you're not already checked out. Hugo was born in Nigeria, says Leapchin. Yep, true. I might do some baking today for therapeutic purposes, says Diz. That'd be cool. Do it. Do some baking. Baking's always fun. Mix stuff up and make it happen. Make it happen. Yeah. So I am gonna head off now. Oh my God, I'm just looking in my politics chat. I've got 50 unread messages. How can I have 50 unread messages? But yes. We've got Mike has put a picture up. Mike Dix has put a picture of him up holding a sack of, I don't know, mail or something. I don't know, but he's leaning into his sexy Santa look of Mike Dix. Does anyone want to see Mike's picture? I don't know if he wants us to share it with you all, but I might do. Our sexy Santa himself. Although Mitch Ben's in our group, and Mitch and Mike often have a bit of a contest to see who's the sexiest Santa. And Mitch is like, but my beard's real. Anyway, so and Mike's like, mine's not. Last night was fun, says Sarah Davis. Yeah, it was a good laugh, and you did very well, Sarah. Sarah did very, very well in the Bond quiz. I've been taking a break from politics for the sake of my mental health, says Leapshin. Very good idea. Very, very good idea. Leapshin, can I recommend The Rabbit Hole once a week with me and Rach, where we talk about anything but politics. And also the Friday Night Social tomorrow night. Please, Leapshin, if you're around for 9:30 tomorrow, join us for that, because we don't really talk that much politics. We generally talk about anything but politics. Anyway, so I'm going to leave it at that. I'm just going to say thank you so much for watching. Thanks for the super chats. Really kind of you. And I will be back tomorrow morning at bright and early at 9 o'clock. Please, if you're not already subscribed to the channel, please subscribe. Don't make me beg, and hit the bell notification icon. We might be doing a show tonight. I don't know. It's not confirmed yet. But if we do, I'd love you to come along and watch and tell us what you think. Just, like I say, let us know. Whether we're doing one or not, it's a really good idea to be subscribed to the channel, because sometimes we do specials. Sometimes when a big news story breaks, we'll do a live stream. So if you can find it in your heart to press the subscribe button and hit the bell notification icon, that would be really, really, really useful. You can also join the channel maybe after we've finished the show today, if you want to look into how to do that. And just generally speaking, give us a like on the way out. We always like a like on this channel. We always like a like. So until next time, I say thank you so much for watching, and thanks for being so generous and so kind and such awesome people. And until next time, hello, good evening, welcome, and goodbye.